All right, let's get right into it. When you think about elite football, it's not just what happens on the pitch, right? It's this massive financial battlefield. We're talking billions of euros flying around. But here's the thing, not all clubs are fighting the same war. And today, we're looking at a true giant, Real Madrid, and how it seems they're playing a completely different game than everyone else. And that leads us to the real puzzle we're tackling today. How in the world does a super club, a team famous for its Galacticos, manage to sign elite, top-of-the-world talent for a tiny fraction of what their rivals are paying? We're talking 9 times less. It sounds completely impossible, but, well, the data tells a pretty wild story. Okay, so this chart right here, it just lays the whole mystery out for you. On one side, you've got the Premier League clubs. They're shelling out, on average, a whopping 95 million euros for a top player from this list. And then you've got Real Madrid. Just 10 million euros? I mean, that's not just a gap, that's a chasm. It's insane. So what is going on here? All right, first things first, we really need to wrap our heads around just how massive this financial gap really is. This isn't about 1 or 2 lucky deals. It's a fundamentally different way of doing business. So to understand this, you gotta understand the world they're playing in. The modern transfer market is basically a financial arms race, right? It's this hyperinflated bubble where clubs, especially the ones flush with TV money, are just throwing cash at each other, trying to snag the next big superstar. And that, of course, sends prices absolutely through the roof. And the absolute epicenter of this spending spree, well, it's the English Premier League. No question about it. They are the market's biggest spenders. And honestly, their financial power pretty much shapes the entire landscape for everyone else. Okay, just take a second and look at this number. 365 million euros. That is what one club, just Liverpool, spent on the top-tier players we're looking at here. It's just a perfect example of that brute financial force we were just talking about. And this chart, wow, it really shows you the pecking order. You've got the 2 big dogs, Liverpool and Manchester United, making up almost 72% of all the spending here. Then you see Newcastle, Arsenal, and then you scroll all the way down, and there's Real Madrid, chilling with their 10 million. The contrast is just staggering. So you gotta ask yourself, right, is all that spending actually smart spending? And this is where we get to the absolute heart of Real Madrid's playbook. See, it's not just about spending less money, it's about understanding the crucial difference between a player's price tag and their actual worth. And this is the secret sauce, right here. You've got market value. That's what a player is supposedly worth on paper. But then you have the transfer fee. That's what a club actually pays. And that fee can get totally inflated by hype, by a bidding war, you name it. The whole game, the genius move, is to pay less than what they're truly worth. Okay, so to really see this in action, we're going to use this really cool tool called the Market Efficiency Matrix. It helps us spot who's making smart deals and who's, well, not. It's pretty simple. The line at the bottom is what a player's worth. The line going up is what the club actually paid for them. See that dotted line cutting across the middle? That's your fair value line. That's where the price paid perfectly matches the player's worth. Now, if a player is above that line, like Isak, that's an overpay. The club paid a premium. But if they're below the line, boom! That is a steal. That is incredible value. And hey, look who's way down there in bargain territory. Trent Alexander-Arnold. What a deal for Liverpool. This zone is exactly where the smart clubs want to live. Which finally brings us to the secret. How does Real Madrid consistently land in that sweet spot, in that value zone? Well, they do it by fighting a totally different kind of war. It's not about outspending the other guy, it's about outthinking him. Let's call it asymmetric warfare. And the core tactic is actually pretty simple, but absolutely brilliant. They target world-class players who are nearing the end of their contracts. See, when a player only has a year or 2 left on their deal, their current club gets desperate. They lose all their leverage. It becomes a choice, sell him now at a discount or risk losing him for free later. So Real Madrid, they just wait, and then they pounce, completely bypassing that auction house frenzy. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? Maintain Galactico standards without Galactico fees. That is their entire philosophy in a nutshell. It's how they stay at the very top of the sport without having to write those insane 9-figure checks like everybody else. So let's visualize this clash of strategies one more time, just to let it sink in. First up, you have the brute force approach. The Premier League average spend for one of these elite players, 95 million euros. A massive, overwhelming number. And now, here's the result of that asymmetric warfare. Real Madrid's average spend, 10 million euros. It is just incredible. It's the ultimate example of strategy and intelligence beating sheer financial muscle. A total masterclass. So, where does this all leave us? What does this mean for the future? Well, what we're really watching here is a clash of two totally different philosophies, and it's probably going to define football for the next decade. On one side, you've got brute force spending. That's the Premier League way. Just try to overwhelm the market with cash. And on the other side, you've got asymmetric warfare, perfected by Real Madrid, using tactical precision, patience, and intelligence to find amazing value where other people aren't even looking. And that leaves us with this one big, lingering question. Can these two completely different worlds coexist? Is Real Madrid's clever, surgical approach actually sustainable in the long run? Or is the market just going to get so crazy that eventually even they will have to join the spending frenzy? That, right there, is the next great battle in football's unending financial war.